4.6 second half banners have just been revealed. We're going to talk about the 5 stars, the 4 stars, and the weapon banner to help you decide if this banner is worth it for you. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. By the way, we are giving away a copy of one character, most likely Clorand, to celebrate 50,000 subscribers, which we are almost there. Thank you guys so much for that. That is amazing. We've barely been doing this for over a year and we're already at 50,000 subscribers. Incredible. So please subscribe if you haven't already so you have a chance to win, and more details on how to win will come in future videos. But if you want to stay up to date, join the Discord server in the description and in the channel bio, and make sure you're subscribed to this channel. So looking at the 5 stars, we've got Wanderer and Baizhu, and then we'll cover the weapon banner of course as well. I think Wanderer and Baizhu are both reasonably good pulls. I think Baizhu has a lot of underrated flexibility. I just made a video on Baizhu and his place in the meta and the changes and all the things you can do with him. I think Baizhu in general is underrated by people that don't have it. If you look at the usage charts for Baizhu, he's always so oftentimes he's higher than Nahida in terms of percentage of people that have him and use him. People like using Baizhu. I use Baizhu a lot. So I would definitely call him a luxury unit, because I don't know how many people are going to go from not being able to clear to being able to clear because they have Baizhu, but I think a lot of people will be able to clear more consistently or more comfortably or just have more enjoyment in the game because of the various teams that you can do with him. He's very good on Nouvellette teams, very good on double hydro like Farina Yalan vape teams. He's pretty good on Nilou teams. He is very good, but he doesn't have as good of Dendro as some other characters, but he's still very good, especially if you're using Farina, which is a very important flexibility option for a lot of Nilou players if you want to be able to use their Nilou every single cycle. Sometimes using Farina is really good, and Baizhu is generally the best. You can use Kokomi too with Prototype Amber, but Baizhu is great there. I went through all of the teams and all of the stuff you can do with him in that other video, but in general, I don't know if he's one of the first couple 5 stars that you want to go for, but if you're kind of trying to round out your account and you either need more Dendro, he's also a great on-field driver for Hyperbloom stuff, or if you just want more kind of comfy options on your account, or if you have a Farina but you don't have a lot of healer options, Baizhu can be a really great pickup. And basically what I'd recommend is check out that video I just made and see what kind of teams I'm using him on and see if those teams look good to you, and if they do, then you can go for it and get him. But I don't think he's by no means a must pull, and we must, if you don't have Farina, you have Farina coming up any patch here. So, I would make sure you get Farina, and also just think about, I wouldn't just get him because you need a healer for Farina as well. In general, if those specific teams look good to you, then great, but we're going to get more healers. Shanyun exists, other characters exist, Jean exists, Charlotte exists, healers exist, and we're going to get more healers one day in the future. But I think that the majority of people that get him end up using him. I don't think very many people regret pulling Baizhu. I think if you watch my recent usage video, and if you watch the series, more times than not, Baizhu is used more than Nahida, which I think is absolutely just bonkers, because he has a lot of teams where he's very good and very comfy on, and when people get him, they use him. That's how it was for me. Before I got him, I thought there's no way I use him. I already have Kurara, I already have Yao Yao. Actually, I think Kurara might have come out the patch after, but Kurara's coming, I already have Yao Yao. What am I going to use Baizhu for? He's just comfy. He's consistent, and that's really, really nice. Genshin doesn't anything beyond 36 stars. Genshin doesn't give you anything more. So to make those 36 stars more comfortable and more consistent has value. Wanderer is pretty good. He's a high investment character. If you're willing to put the investment into him, so you need C6 Farazan, either R5 Widsith or a 5-star weapon, and you need pretty good artifacts on him, high investment talent levels, high level, he is a hyper carry character. So if you want him to have good Abyss performance, be prepared to highly invest into Wanderer. I think a lot of people also, if you're going to go for C6 Farazan, you probably end up with C1 or C2 Wanderer, in which case he will perform very well. It's expensive. On the upside, once you have Wanderer and Farazan at C6, not Wanderer at C6, just Farazan, you have a lot of team options, because you can do Bennett Toma, you can do Bennett Layla, you can do, which it's really nice that Layla and Farazan are both in this banner, by the way. You can do Zhongli Chiori, you can do double hydro, you can do Bennett Farina, you can do Bennett Chengling. There's a lot of different options that he has. Once you have that Farazan C6, it opens things up. I've also used sort of freeze with Farina Charlotte or Farina Mika I prefer Charlotte because she actually freezes things. And so you kind of have your Wanderer Farzan core, and he has a variety of both shielded and unshielded options. If you don't have Farzan C6, he does feel to me like a bit of an inferior DPS, but with Farzan C6, you know, he becomes pretty competitive with all the other, you know, best DPS in the game aside from the top 3. Check out my top 5 DPS video, by the way. But yeah, aside from like Arlecchino, Novelette, and Alhaitham, not in any particular order, if you invest into your Wanderer, he feels competitive with those other characters. Using him without a shield can be a bit of a pain, as when he gets hit, he gets knocked very far. So if you're kind of a scrub like me, it can be nice to use him with a shield. But if you're really going to main him and you get used to him and you get used to his dodge, it's pretty cool how he has the thing where when you dodge, he still does some damage. So you don't lose too much damage by dodging. He's a character that basically rewards you for the time you put in, the investment you put in terms of artifacts, in terms of characters, and also the time you put into learning just his nuances and his rotations and the stuff you can do. And I think that if you really put the investment and time into him, he'll be good for you. But I wouldn't recommend him as a DPS to most new players because a lot of players won't put in that effort. But if you do, he is very good. And I would also say that in the beginning, he is a great exploration character. He's an amazing exploration character. Being able to fly is awesome. I wish it lasted a little bit longer. I'd recommend having some sort of hydro character so you can get a bit of extra stamina when you're exploring. But otherwise, I really like him. I'll have a full updated, you know, what's new with Wanderer video coming out in a couple days. So make sure you subscribe for that. Now, the 4 stars. Baizhu doesn't really care what 4 stars are alongside him. So if you're a Baizhu puller, you kind of just want whatever good 4 stars that you want. Farzan's a cracked character. If you end up with C6 Farzan, that's a W. So I don't think her being on a banner, even if you don't currently have an Animo DPS, I don't think that's so bad, because you could always pick up an Animo DPS one day, whether that be Zhao or Wanderer or even Shenyun, and run her as a DPS. Beidou is good with him because you can run Sucrose as a driver and Beidou Fischl, and then use Baizhu as your healer, and that's actually a really, really good aggravate team. So if you end up with a bunch of constellations on Beidou and you have a Fischl, you have a Sucrose, I highly recommend trying out that team. I do have a Beidou guide you can check out if you want. I also have a Layla guide. I don't have a Farzan guide because, well, maybe I'll make one, but she's pretty straightforward. You just use Fav, generally use Tenacity, lots of ER. So I think Beidou is pretty nice on here for Baizhu, and between Baiju's refreshing shield, which gives you some interruption resistance every 2.5 seconds, and Beidou's little shield, and Beidou's damage reduction, and Beidou's interruption resistance, you're gonna feel super, super safe with your on-field Sucrose. So it's actually a pretty comfy and pretty good team whenever Beidou is good in the Abyss, which is pretty often, not all the time, maybe like every other Abyss it feels like Beidou is really good in. That could be a really good team. But yeah, Baizhu doesn't really have much synergy with Layla because Baizhu is the defensive utility, and Crowd Dendro have nothing to do with each other. And obviously Farzan, I don't think there's any teams where you're going to run Farzan and Baizhu on the same team, so not a ton of synergy here, but I think that these units are fine enough. Like, I like Layla. I think she's pretty good. I think she's good with Novelette. I think she's good with Wanderer. I think she's good with Mono Cryo. I think Layla is a pretty good character, and at the higher constellations. I'm really upset actually that she's on this banner because I already have both these characters and I will not be wishing on these banners, but I really need another constellation of Layla for C4, and then I really want C6 Layla. So I'm pretty upset, but one day. And then for Wanderer, this is a really, really good banner for him. Like, obviously Farzan is attached to him, and that's really, really good because he really, really wants Farzan. If you're a Wanderer main, you just gotta suck it up and just keep wishing until one day you get C6 Farzan. It doesn't have to be this time, it doesn't have to be next time, but one day you have to plan to just keep wishing to get C6 Farzan. Don't spend money, right? Don't chase 4 stars with money, but that's just the gamble you have to pay when going for Wanderer. That's the price you have to pay. There's no negotiating it. But Layla, really, really, really good character with Wanderer, especially when you get her C6, because pre C6 it can be a little bit unreliable to get the cryo buff, because Wanderer buffs himself with an element that he swirls with his skill when he's going into a special state. It can be a little bit unreliable pre C6 Layla, so Toma ends up being a better choice. But at C6, and even before then, you can make it work. But especially at C6, Layla becomes an excellent partner. And then she also buffs Wanderer at C4. So Layla is a really, really great partner, providing interruption resistance and that buffing and that cryo for the crit rate. You have to be careful not to overcap. Some weapons that he uses are going to overcap on crit rate. So it can be less worth to have Layla. But even if you do have lower Constellation Layla, it's fine. It'll still, especially if you're new, it'll still give you a character that is a shield, especially if you don't have Zhongli, you don't have Toma. Layla, there are still times where she's better, especially if you can get that cryo swirl. Helps you with your crit ratio. Very, very nice that she's on this banner. I suppose you can put Beta on and you can do some sort of Wanderer Taser stuff. Sounds like Wanderer Aggravate, like if you want to do like a swirl Wanderer, if you don't get any copies of Farazan, kind of use Wanderer as like instead of Sucrose on the team that I just mentioned with Baizhu, you could do that, I guess. That'd be kind of cool. If not, Wander's meant to be a hyper carry. He has good multipliers. He doesn't have that much swirl and no grouping like Sucrose does. So Beto, not the greatest synergy here, but Beto's still a good character to have around. I don't generally end up using her that much, but I know a lot of people do, and they use her a lot. So she is very, very good when she works good. So overall, these aren't bad banners. Like, these are pretty solid banners. Not insane. Like, they don't have like the highest value characters, but between this and also don't forget Bennett is in the Starglitter shop right now. So if you don't have Bennett, go pick yourself up a copy of Bennett to use with your Wanderer. That's gonna be worth it. And then then you've got Wanderer Farazan, Layla, Bennett. You've got your whole team right there. That's really pretty good. But you know, DPS is, at the end of the day, he's as good as a lot of other DPSs. There's a lot of DPSs that hit this very good level, in my opinion. So you gotta just pick your poison, and they all have their kind of pros and cons. And if you want to pick Wanderer, he's absolutely a good choice. But if you don't really like him, like, don't feel like you need to go for him just because you have copies of Farazan. You need to go for him. Make sure you get the DPSs, especially that you like. If you're considering the weapon banner, my best advice to you is don't. Wanderer, it is obviously Wanderer's general best in slot, but there are times where cash flow is very, very competitive. Sometimes better from some calcs I've seen. Sometimes Widsith is better if you're on the right team and you get the right buff. Widsith can be better, especially if you're using Bennett to make up for the lower base attack and you're okay resetting for the buff. I hate resetting for the Widsith buff, so I'm not a fan. But obviously, if you don't have any 5-star catalyst, then the Widsith you want to go for. But Wanderer has some good catalyst options. Like, he's got cash flow supervision, he's got Skyward Atlas, and he's got Widsith. So I would stay away from this weapon banner because the Jade False Splendor is just not worth risking. Normally I go through all the 4-stars, and yes, Favonius Sword is good. The spear is actually kind of not that bad. The bow, I don't remember. Sacrificial Frag, people are saying it's actually decent on Baizhu, which actually does make sense. It lets you use your skill twice. And Pain Slasher is fine-ish these days, like Gaming Melt Stuff or Vape and Dilute Plunge Vape is better than it used to be. But overall, like, the Jade False Splendor, Baiju's weapon, is just so bad because it's basically just slightly better prototype Amber, but even then it's only slightly. So I would really recommend not wishing on this banner. It's very sad that this is the second time in a row that Wanderer has been absolutely shafted by the weapon that his is run alongside with. Very, very tragic. Last time was the Donut. This time it's the Jade False Splendor. Probably the two worst limited 5-star weapons in the game. They're not totally awfully awful. Like, you could use them on on-field Kokomi and arena teams. It's just so cope, man. Just stay away. And if you do wish on this banner because you want Wanderer's weapon, you don't want to wait, then just make sure you have your 200 plus wishes so you don't end up with 2 Jade False Splendors, a bunch of Prospector's Drill, and miss your bell. I guess the only consolation prize is that there's a Favonius Sword here, but the thing is, don't even let that bait you because it's only a 1 in like 10 chance because you can lose your 50-50 to some other weapon, and there's like it's like a 1 in 10 chance to get the actual weapon that you want on here. So very, very, very unreliable. Very stay away. I think, yeah, the character banners are good. The weapon banner is trash. But remember, right? We already know who's coming next. Cloran has been drip marketed. The usual Archon pattern for reruns did not happen, but I'd be shocked if the next patch didn't have Farina. So Cloran next patch, Farina next patch. I mean, who else? I wouldn't be surprised if Nilu reran soon, if Alhaitham reran soon. Also, I saw some people in the comments talking about Kave. Kave was released with Baizhu over a year ago, and Baizhu has since reran twice, and Kave has, being a 4-star, has still not appeared on any banners. This is insane. Like, this is actually wild. I don't know how Hoyo has let this happen. Hopefully they're cooking something and they're gonna release some sort of character that's actually good with Kave, and that's what they're saving him for. Surely they're making us wait for a reason, right? Very, very weird. But yeah, so just be careful. You know, good characters are coming back, but if you've been waiting for these characters, you know, make sure you get them regardless of whether you like the 4-stars or not, because it's important you get your favorites and get the characters that support them so you can have fun in this game. And do not get baited on the weapon banner. So, and do not get baited because Farazan will rerun, so don't spend to get Farazan. Take care. Bye for now.